So we're up to way number 39, which is Nose Ba'ol Im Chavero, sharing your friend's burden. Has anyone ever slapped you on the back and said, when you were feeling down, and said, cheer up, it's not so bad, you've got everything to live for. And you felt like telling the person to get lost. Now, why did you feel like telling the person to get lost? They really just wanted to help you. The reason is they're not with you. They're not connected to you. They don't understand. They're not in your place. And while they are concerned, they don't really have the empathy that means that they really can feel what you're feeling and are looking to lift or share the burden with you. So way number 39 is Nosei Ba'ol Im Chavero, which means to carry your friend's burden. Beware of another person's problems. Be aware of another person's problems and share their pain. Don't treat them as objects to avoid or manipulate or compete against. Get out of yourself and realize that other people are just as real as you are. Feel their heartaches, feel their aspirations, and feel their joys. When someone's physically hurt, right, everyone jumps for bandages or water or to do CPR, whatever's needed. But when someone's emotionally in pain or depressed, suffering, all too often it's easier to ignore their distress. So enter their world and feel their burden, because a broken heart is worse than a broken arm. So number one of this is put yourself in his or her place. So pause for a moment and take note of another person. Is this person happy, or are they sad, anxious, confident? Try to enter their world and pay attention to what they're feeling and carrying with them. And ask yourself, what's their burden? Use your imagination to feel how it weighs them down. So how does it feel to maybe be elderly, or to lose a parent, or to struggle financially, right? And, we have the ability to empathize and feel what the other person's feeling if we just put our minds to it. Feeling another person's pain, even if you can't actually do something to change it, helps them immeasurably. By sharing their burden, you're actually lightening their load. When people are understood and supported by others, they don't feel alone anymore. So that's why, for instance, when we go to a Shiva house to visit a bereaved person, we're not supposed to initiate conversation. Because just sitting there and feeling the emotion of their pain with them is the greatest conversation that we can have. Same applies for when we go to visit someone sick, right, to do the mitzvah Bikur Cholim. Your visit lifts their spirits and lifts them up. And just by spending time, you may not be able to cure them, but just by spending time, our sages say, you take away 1/60th of their illness, right? And that's because of the power of that sharing of the burden on an emotional level. Number two of this is you were once there before, right? Whenever you suffered through a challenge and you see someone suffering through that challenge, you have a particular capability to empathize with them, right? You remember when you struggled financially, or when you started a new job, or when you encountered difficulties raising your children. Having been there once yourself, you can relate better than others who have never experienced a challenge. And yet, that's often the time where we kind of run the other way. We don't want to tap back into the pain that we once felt. But remember, we have to overcome this natural aversion by reaching out and getting involved. And that's why the Torah commands us that you should love a ger. It says, V'ahavtas a ger, ki ger hayisa b'eretz Mitzrayim. You should love a ger, a convert, because you were once converts in the land of Egypt. Right? Our ability to empathize is much greater when we actually can have experienced that particular pain at one point or another. Number three of this is family first. Difficult one. Right? The people we love most, our family and close friends, are the ones that we should empathize with the most. And yet, they're often the ones that we choose to ignore from that perspective. So when you get home from work, instead of dropping onto the couch and saying, what's for dinner, try to empathize with what your spouse is going through. Show them that you know how hard they work, and lend them a hand. So we love our children, but do we take time to really get into where they're coming from, to really understand the challenges and pain that they may be going through, and relate to them as individuals? As children ourselves, do we do that with our parents? Do we understand what they're worried about, what their concerns are, right? And again, they may love you, but part of loving them is to be able to feel what they're feeling and empathize with them. So take the time, whether it's with your spouse or your parents or your children or those friends that are closest to you, to really enter their world and feel what they're feeling and think what they're thinking. That will, at the very least, reduce your anger and irritation at some things that you may come across in those close relationships, and hopefully allow you to empathize and carry their burden with them. Number 4, this is sharing joy, right? Sharing another's burden also means sharing their joy. Imagine you had a baby and you have no one to tell about it. Or you proposed and she said yes, and you have no one to share it with. Every joy requires sharing for it to be complete joy. So it's really painful not to feel that other people are sharing in that joy with you. So take that opportunity to share in someone's joy with them. Number 5 of this is to reach out, right? Sharing the burden is a crucial component to leadership, Jewish leadership and otherwise. We know famously that Moshe Rabbeinu, the first thing we learn about Moshe Rabbeinu is that it says that he came out of his, he grew up and he went out to his brethren, and Vayar b'sivlosam, he saw their burdens. And Rashi famously says that he turned his heart and his eyes to be distressed over them. Right? This is the catalyst for Moses, for Moshe Rabbeinu being the greatest leader of all time. He made the decision to identify with the pain. He grew up in the palace. He didn't have that pain, but he made the decision to identify and empathize with the pain and the anguish that they had, and that was a catalyst for him to feel like he had to act. So empathy pierces our cocoon of self-absorption and apathy and wakes us up to the responsibilities that we have in the world. So don't be inured to someone else's pain. When you hear news of a terror attack in Israel, take it to heart. Feel for the victims and their family. Put yourself in their shoes. Otherwise, you become callous. So number 6 of this is to recognize that it's our responsibility to feel God's pain. Right? Our empathy should extend to Hashem himself. He suffers when man suffers. You can't take away your child's free will and coerce them into doing exactly what you want them to do. You have to allow them to make their own mistakes so that they can become independent and responsible adults, but it certainly hurts when we see them make those mistakes. So the Almighty, our Father in heaven, also suffers when we make mistakes. He's witnessing millions of people, right, of his children effectively losing their way, drifting from their heritage. He sees divorce, he sees unhappiness, abuse, confusion, right? There's a whole host of challenges in this world, and God is looking down and seeing all of them. We have to feel his pain. It says in the Talmud that every person has to say, B'shvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created for me. Now that doesn't mean we get all puffed up and we can take and take and take and take. No, the opposite. It means that we have a responsibility to the entire world because the world is counting on us. Specifically in the area of sharing others' burdens, that responsibility looms large. So a couple of ideas for applied wisdom. One is take a specific acquaintance and try to figure out what it is that they're going through in their life and identify with it and empathize with it, and only then make an approach to share the burden. Number 2 of applied wisdom is take that idea and focus it on your spouse and your children. Enter their world, feel their burden, ask yourself what they really need from you, and then try and provide it.